Two lives were taken at the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. by this individual. And unfortunately, this was predictable. Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the shooting at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. that claimed the lives of two innocent people who worked at the Israeli embassy. Now, before I go any further, may they rest in peace. Prayers out to the family. This was a tragedy, and I think this tragedy was somewhat avoidable. Can I address the elephant in the room? We've had these so-called protests, which have become riots many times, all over the country. College campuses, major cities, all over the place. What is the common theme behind these so-called protests? Israel's to blame the Jews, free Palestine. All this anger, all this animosity, all this violence directed toward Jewish people. So, of course, this kind of event is unfortunately inevitable. This is why your Mahmoud Khalil from Colombia had his green card revoked, because how are you going to be over here as a guest of this nation, stoking civil unrest to where things like this happen? No country on planet Earth should want that. It doesn't matter where they come from, and it doesn't matter what color they are. Now, before I go too far into it, let's show the victims because they matter the most here. This is a tweet from JD Vance. He says, "My heart breaks for Sarah Milgram and Yaron Lachinsky, who were murdered last night at the Capitol Jewish Museum. Anti-Semitic violence has no place in the United States. We're praying for their families and all of our friends at the Israeli embassy where the two victims worked." Now, this is them right here, lovely couple. They were just days away from getting engaged. Okay, Yaron is 30, Sarah is 26. Yaron grew up in Israel and Germany, and Sarah's from Kansas. They were going to go on a trip to Israel, and he was to propose then. Just next week, they were going to get engaged. They probably would have had a beautiful life together, but unfortunately, it was cut short by the guy who we saw at the very beginning. Now, let's just show this individual. Of course, this video, that particular tweet, and the next video we're going to see will all be in the description box if you want to see them, hear them without my commentary. If you're on IG, Facebook, etc., visit the link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Now, this guy's name is Elias. He's from Chicago, 30 years old. Okay, and we could pretty much, you heard what he said. You already pretty much know why he said that and where it came from. You already know what it is. Now, let's go to a news clip here. This is going to be CBS. Of course, again, it will be in the box, but let's go ahead and roll it.
Heartbreaking and senseless again, and that is where we're going to start this morning with that shocking news from Washington that you're waking up to. Last night, two Israeli embassy staff members were shot and killed as they left an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum. Now, video from the scene shows the arrest of a man who appears to be the shooter. The victims have been identified as a young couple who were set to be engaged. They were killed right across the street from an FBI field office and less than a mile from the U.S. Capitol. Scott McFarland is near the scene right now. Scott, good morning. I know that this is a very fluid situation right now, but what can you tell us so far?
Hey, Gail, the Capitol Jewish Museum is that smaller brick building behind me, if you look closely at your screen. And that police tape is hanging from the side of the Washington, D.C. FBI field office. That's how high security an area this is. We are steps away from the Justice Department, from the D.C.
Because the thing about it is, the whole thing about the high security, they're treating it like it could be part of a larger terror plot, so they don't want to take any chances.
Police headquarters from the U.S. Capitol. This was nevertheless the scene of a targeted attack last night.
Tonight, a heinous crime was committed.
A fatal shooting outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday night. Law enforcement says prior to the attack, the suspect was observed pacing back and forth outside the museum.
He approached a group of 4 people, produced a handgun, and opened fire, striking both of our decedents. After the shooting, the suspect then entered the museum and was detained by event security.
This morning, the Israeli Foreign Ministry named the two victims as Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram, embassy staff workers in Washington.
The young man purchased a ring this week with the intention of proposing to his girlfriend next week in Jerusalem.
The suspect,
Awful. Terrible.
who's now in custody, was identified by police as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez from Chicago.
Free Palestine!
The FBI says it's investigating ties to potential terrorism and his motivation.
Now, I'm going to pause for a minute. I've watched other videos showing this guy, or I've watched that video on different platforms, social media, stuff like this. And a lot of the comments will pretty much be supporting them, talking about free Palestine, all this, that, and the third. See, that right there comes from a lot of them being brainwashed by social media, brainwashed by what they see on these college campuses. And this is a big part of the reason why, if you're here as a guest in this country on a green card and you're engaging in that kind of behavior on a campus or anywhere else, you got to get up out of here, because you are contributing to civil unrest, and we don't want to import that in our country. If you want to do that back in your home country and see how it goes for you. But don't come here as a guest and do it.
Suspect chanted, "Free, free Palestine," while in custody.
Witnesses say Rodriguez was with them inside the museum after the shooting before they realized who he was.
So about 10 minutes later, when the cops actually came in, he said, "I did this." He said, "Sir, I'm unarmed." He put his hands up. He grabbed a red kufi out of his pocket and started the Free Palestine chants.
President Trump responded to the shooting, posting, "These horrible D.C. killings, based obviously on anti-Semitism, must end," adding, "Hatred and radicalism have no place in the USA." Trump contacted Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was with the Israeli ambassador.
Together with President Trump, our Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will stand together tall and firm, and we will confront this moral depravity without fear and with determination.
Israel's prime minister says they are strengthening security arrangements at their posts at their Israeli government facilities across the globe. An initial search by law enforcement did not show anything about Elias Rodriguez. We expect to hear from law enforcement again later this.
Now, they're going to raid the guy's house, obviously, in Chicago, and they're going to try to find any kind of links to terror, if he was acting on his own, what inspired him to do this. So there may be more information as days and weeks progress, but as of right now, they say it's just him. But it's not just him. Like, even if it is just him who did this, as far as the coordination, whatever, it is part of a larger issue in this country with the anti-Semitism coming from the left mostly. This is the reason why Josh Shapiro was not picked to be Kamala's VP, and they had to go with Tim Walz, because Josh Shapiro is Jewish, and they don't like Jews a whole lot on the left right now. And again, a lot of that is fueled by your college protests. It's fueled by your protests in the streets that become riots. A lot of a lot of boundaries get crossed in these so-called protests. You're harassing Jewish people. You're putting your hands on them, doing things like this. So of course, if it's allowed to go unchecked, if it becomes popular, you're going to have some who decide to go ahead, throw their life away, crash out, and take the lives of innocent people minding their business at a museum, at an event. Now, as I close, I want to say this. People like this need to get put up under the penitentiary. They need to go ahead and get put out back. Look, if it was me, I just, put them out back. If you did it and we got evidence, take you out back and be done with it, rather than spending taxpayer money on you. That's what I would say. And if you're here as a migrant, illegal, something like that, man, please. Like, you're going to get the ultimate straight to El Salvador. That's just my humble opinion, but I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your opinion about the shooting at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C.? Do you think this was inspired by a lot of these Free Palestine protesters? I mean, the guy said it right there in the actual video. Do you think that's what fueled this? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. All these so-called protests most certainly fueled this. That's why that guy from Colombia, okay, y'all know what I'm talking about, Mahmoud Khalil, that's why that guy is in nice custody. That's why a lot of these individuals are in nice custody, getting green cards revoked, getting their legal status revoked, as they should. Why do we want more rabble rousers in this country causing problems, causing us to deal with violence? Innocent people losing their lives for what? For what? Really unfortunate, really crazy. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.